crying for the past I left behind.
Class of '96. Class of '96 was a teen drama that aired on Fox in 1993. It followed the lives of 7 students at a fictional Ivy League university, and had it stayed on the air as planned, it would have ended in 1996, with students graduating. The first time I spoke about this, I mentioned how many episodes of the show were lost due to the show's fight for some kind of stability with the time slot, ultimately leading to low ratings, the show's cancellation, and eventual obscurity. At the time, only the first 5 episodes of the show were found. The day after I uploaded that video, quite a few more episodes with the show were found, and just recently the entire show became found. Now you can watch every episode of Class of '96, and in commemoration of that, that's why this episode is going to take place on my college campus. The Stranger Things video game. In 2018, it was announced that Telltale, known for making games like the Walking Dead games and Minecraft Story Mode, was planning a game based on the show Stranger Things. The game's story is unknown, though it was likely to use characters from the show in a non-canon fashion. Like most Telltale games, the character most likely would have had the option of what to say, and each option affects the story and potential ending for the player. Telltale filed for bankruptcy in September of 2018 due to various layoffs, and thus the game was cancelled. Although it's hard to tell how early in development this was, as the game was cancelled roughly 3 months after its announcement. All that's left is some game footage, some concept art, and the game's soundtrack. Pyros. In 1987, the Japanese arcade game Pyros was released, with a North American release later that year. In this arcade game published by Taito, you play as a man trying to save a princess who's been captured by the villain of the game. Gee, how original is that? For the pretty good reception in its time as an arcade game, today it's pretty obscure. And even more obscure is the planned NES version of the game. The game was to contain 5 levels just like the arcade version. Due to acquisition of the NES version's publisher by Sega, that pretty much killed any chance of an NES release, what with the console wars and all. There was a version released for the Sega Genesis, but it's a pretty clear graphical upgrade, and it's unknown what the NES version would have looked like and sounded like. Nickelodeon Japan. I've mentioned this before on my channel, but that was essentially a pitch pilot for my Lost Media videos. Nickelodeon in Japan has been shut down for some time now, since 2009 in fact. On the same day Nickelodeon changed its international branding, without warning, Nickelodeon in Japan just faded to black. There exist 3 shutdown videos by 3 different television providers. One shows a bumper with SpongeBob and then cuts off, one of them, whose provider is unknown, just shows the Nickelodeon logo and then cuts off, and the third shows the credits of an obscure short before cutting off. Most people hadn't even heard of the short before. All 3 of these could potentially be fake, with the second one being the most likely candidate to be fake, and it's unknown whether the footage of the shutdown from other providers is still out there, or if it existed in the first place. WWE SmackDown vs. Raw Online. This game was planned to be the first exclusive online PC game under the WWE brand. The game would focus heavily on online multiplayer, though single-player gameplay was available. And if you wanted, you could interact with players in a sort of hub to trade items and fight them. The game would have included microtransactions, a rare thing in 2010. For financial reasons, THQ canceled the game in 2011, a decision which ultimately backfired, resulting in a loss of nearly $10 million. THQ wouldn't even last 2 more years before folding completely, and it's possible that this game played a part in that. No builds of the game have ever been accessible, and likely never will be. The only tangible thing to publicly come out is a trailer. Sword of Justice. Despite the name, this has nothing to do with Pokemon. This was a drama series about a character who is wrongly convicted of a crime, and after his release from jail turns to vigilante justice. NBC released this to compete with the other 2 big networks at the time, CBS and ABC. And in the beginning, the ratings were really good. This was short-lived though, as ABC's Vegas was a similar show and became more popular, essentially stealing ratings from Sword of Justice. Executives decided to keep airing the show until ratings were so low they held the last episode of the show, eventually releasing it a year later. The pilot to the show is 2 hours long, essentially making it a movie, and currently it's the only found episode of the show. Outside of that, short clips are incredibly hard to find. Dexter's Laboratory, Robot Rumble. Cartoon Network's record of preserving video games based on their shows isn't the best. This game is no exception. Robot Rumble was the name of a separate Dexter's Laboratory Flash game, but there was also planned to be a console game with the same title in 2003, obviously with different gameplay. The game was to be a 3D fighting game using the Dexter's Laboratory IP, and was planned to release on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube in 2004. IGN released a few screenshots of the game, suggesting at one point they had a prototype or review copy, though this build hasn't been released to the public and has a slim chance of doing so. In addition to the gameplay screenshots, there's plenty of concept art, but that's all that remains of this cancelled game. The Prussian Cur. This is a World War I propaganda film about a spy named Dick Gregory. It deals with espionage between the US and Germany during the First World War. At the time it came out, the film was not received well. It was generally seen as on the nose, and did not hide its jingoism or make its messaging very subtle. Many releases of the film in its day were censored, and in general the movie was controversial. There does exist a few stills from the film, as well as some posters and other promotional material, but any actual copies of the film are nowhere to be found. Any of the ones that did exist were likely destroyed in the 1937 Fox Vault fire. Cans Without Labels backer rewards. John K's Kickstarter Cans Without Labels, like most things he does, is shrouded in controversy, and for good reason. In addition to the pedophilia and short temper that already made this guy a horrible person, he also added being a slow worker to the list of things that make him terrible. Cans Without Labels took inordinate amounts of time, as it was announced in 2012 and did not release until 2019. And even after almost 7 years for 10 minutes of animation, it was still a pretty terrible short. The controversy really reached a boiling point around the time of the short's release, resulting in backer rewards becoming lost. These weren't just anything to write home about though, just some DVD releases and exclusive shorts that were never even made, or finished, and as a result, they'll most likely never be seen, as John K's career in animation is pretty much over.
Okay, everybody, don't panic. The host has returned. I can take losing the topic cards and the phone and the punch bowl, but I was supposed to lead the bunny hop. This is a bunch of barnacles. I'm breaking in.
Well, what do we have here? A burglar bunny. Why'd they do it, O'Malley?
I don't know. It's probably how he gets his kicks.
Humpback Hop. With this, I think I've saved the best for last. This was a SpongeBob song I originally talked about in episode 25, though El Supersonic Q made a video about the song before that. The search for the song began with the contacting of the composer Theo Mondel, who tried his best but ultimately couldn't do much for the search and declined any more contact. After this, it was theorized a Wayback Machine search of his website could have a full copy of the song, except no one remembered the URL, including Mondel himself, which was a huge roadblock. This looked like it could end up as a piece of lost media that never gets found until YouTuber SpongeDivers Music uploaded the full song inexplicably a few weeks ago. No one knows how it became found, as he seemed to omit any kind of information from the description of the video. In any case, if you ever wanted to listen to the full song, it's now out and the full thing will be linked in the description below. Thanks for watching, hope you appreciated the new style, and have a good one.